I never expected a simple translation job to change my life so drastically. But then again, I never expected someone like Christina to walk into my office either. It was a crisp autumn morning in Anaheim when I received the email. A high-profile client needed a translator for a series of important business negotiations. As I skimmed through the details, my heart began to race. This wasn't just any client. This was Christina Valdez, CEO of one of the largest tech companies in California. I'd heard rumors about her, brilliant, demanding, and notoriously difficult to work with. But the pay was excellent, and frankly, I needed the challenge. My career had been in a rut lately, and this could be the boost I desperately needed. As I prepared for our first meeting, I found myself oddly nervous. I'd worked with plenty of important clients before, but something about this felt different. I spent hours selecting the perfect outfit, a sleek black pantsuit that I hoped struck the right balance between professional and confident. When the day finally arrived, I arrived at the office early, double-checking everything was in order. As I waited in the conference room, I couldn't help but fidget, smoothing imaginary wrinkles from my jacket and adjusting my hair. The door opened, and there she was. Christina Valdez in the flesh. She was. Not what I expected. Tall and lithe with long dark hair and piercing green eyes, she exuded an aura of power and grace that took my breath away. As she approached, I caught a whiff of her perfume, something exotic and intoxicating. "Lindsay Porter?" she asked, her voice low and melodious. I stood, extending my hand. "Yes, Miss Valdez, it's a pleasure to meet you." As our hands touched, I felt an unexpected jolt of electricity. Her grip was firm, her skin soft and warm. Our eyes met, and for a moment, I forgot how to breathe. Christina's lips curved into a slight smile. "The pleasure is mine, Miss Porter. I've heard excellent things about your work." We sat down, and as we began to discuss the project, I found myself captivated by more than just her words. The way she spoke, the graceful movements of her hands, the intensity in her eyes, it all drew me in like a moth to a flame. Throughout the meeting, I struggled to maintain my professional demeanor. Every time our eyes met, I felt a flutter in my stomach that I couldn't quite explain. It was disconcerting, to say the least. I'd never reacted this way to a client before, let alone a woman. As the meeting drew to a close, Christina leaned back in her chair, studying me with those mesmerizing green eyes. "I think we'll work well together, Lindsay. I look forward to our collaboration." I nodded, hoping my voice wouldn't betray the tumult of emotions swirling inside me. "Likewise, Miss Valdez, I'll do my best to exceed your expectations." She stood, smoothing her skirt in a gesture that drew my eyes to the curve of her hips. I quickly averted my gaze, feeling a blush creep up my neck. As she left, I couldn't help but watch her go, my mind reeling. What was happening to me? Why did I feel so affected by her presence? Little did I know this was just the beginning. Christina Valdez was about to turn my world upside down, challenging everything I thought I knew about myself and my desires. And despite my best efforts to maintain professional boundaries, I was already falling headlong into something I couldn't control or understand. In the weeks that followed my first meeting with Christina, I found myself in a constant state of internal conflict. Every time we met to discuss the project, I felt that same inexplicable pull towards her. It was maddening. Trying to focus on work when all I could think about was the way her lips curved when she smiled, or how her eyes sparkled when she talked about something she was passionate about. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe I was just in awe of her success, her confidence, but deep down, I knew it was more than that. The way my skin tingled when she accidentally brushed against me, the way my heart raced when she leaned in close to look at something on my computer screen, it was becoming harder and harder to ignore. One night, as we worked late in her office, I found myself stealing glances at her more often than usual. The soft glow of the desk lamp cast shadows across her face, accentuating her high cheekbones and the elegant line of her jaw. She had loosened her hair from its usual tight bun, and it fell in soft waves around her shoulders. I had to resist the urge to reach out and run my fingers through it. "Lindsay?" Christina's voice snapped me out of my reverie. "Are you all right? You seem distracted." I blinked, feeling heat rise to my cheeks. "I'm sorry, I guess I'm just tired. It's been a long day." She leaned back in her chair, studying me with those piercing green eyes. "Perhaps we should call it a night. We've made good progress." As I gathered my things, I could feel her gaze on me. When I looked up, There was an intensity in her eyes that made my breath catch in my throat. "You know," she said softly, "I've really enjoyed working with you these past few weeks. You're different from what I expected." I swallowed hard, unsure how to respond. Different how? Christina stood, moving around the desk until she was standing just inches away from me. I could smell her perfume, that intoxicating scent that had been haunting my dreams. "You're not intimidated by me," she said, her voice low. "Most people are, but you challenge me. I like that." Before I could respond, her hand brushed against mine as she reached for a pen on the desk. The contact sent a jolt of electricity through my body, and I gasped involuntarily. Christina's eyes widened slightly, and for a moment I thought I saw a flicker of something, desire, in their depths. But then she stepped back, clearing her throat. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice slightly husky. "I didn't mean to invade your personal space." I shook my head, trying to calm my racing heart. "It's fine, I should go." As I hurried out of her office, my mind was in turmoil. What had just happened? That moment of tension, of unspoken desire, had I imagined it? Or was Christina feeling the same inexplicable attraction that I was? Over the next few days, I tried to maintain a professional distance, but it was becoming increasingly difficult. Every interaction seemed charged with unspoken tension. I caught Christina watching me when she thought I wasn't looking, her gaze lingering a bit too long to be purely professional. One afternoon, as we were reviewing some documents, Christina reached over to point something out. Her hand accidentally brushed against mine, and this time, neither of us pulled away immediately. For a long moment we stayed frozen, the warmth of her skin against mine sending shivers down my spine. When our eyes met, I saw my own confusion and desire mirrored in her gaze. Slowly, almost unconsciously, we began to lean towards each other. I could feel her breath on my lips, my heart pounding so hard I was sure she could hear it. But just as our lips were about to meet, the sharp ring of her office phone shattered the moment. We jumped apart, both of us looking flustered and confused. As Christina answered the phone, I excused myself, practically fleeing from her office. In the safety of the bathroom, I stared at my reflection, trying to make sense of what had almost happened. I was attracted to Christina, there was no denying that anymore. But what did it mean? I had never been interested in women before. And even if I was, she was my client. Getting involved would be professional suicide. Yet as I splashed cold water on my face, trying to regain my composure, all I could think about was how much I wanted to go back to that moment, to feel Christina's lips against mine. I was falling hard and fast, and I had no idea how to stop it, or if I even wanted to. The weeks following our near kiss were a whirlwind of conflicting emotions and stolen glances. Christina and I danced around each other, maintaining a facade of professionalism, while the air between us crackled with unspoken tension. I found myself living for those moments when our hands would accidentally brush, or when she'd lean in close to whisper something during a meeting, her breath warm against my ear. But as intoxicating as my growing feelings for Christina were, they weren't my only problem. Mark, one of the senior partners at the translation firm, had been paying me an uncomfortable amount of attention lately. At first, I tried to brush it off as friendly concern, but his lingering looks and accidental touches were becoming harder to ignore. One evening, as I was working late in my office, Mark appeared in my doorway, leaning against the frame with what I'm sure he thought was a charming smile. "Lindsay, you're looking particularly lovely tonight," he said, his eyes roaming over me in a way that made my skin crawl. I forced a polite smile. "Thank you, Mark. Was there something you needed?" He sauntered into my office, perching on the edge of my desk. "I was thinking we could grab dinner, maybe discuss your future at the firm?" The implication in his tone was clear, and I felt a wave of revulsion wash over me. "I appreciate the offer, but I'm swamped with the Valdez project. Maybe another time." Mark's smile faltered, a flash of irritation crossing his face. "Come on, Lindsay. You've been working so hard. Let me take care of you." As he reached out to touch my arm, I jerked back, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. "Mark, I said no. Please respect that." Before he could respond, a familiar voice cut through the tension like a knife. "Is everything all right here?" Christina stood in the doorway, her eyes flicking between Mark and me, taking in the scene with a steely gaze. Mark straightened up, his demeanor instantly changing. "Ms. Valdez, what a pleasant surprise. Lindsay and I were just discussing some work matters." Christina's eyebrow arched skeptically. "Is that so?" Because from where I'm standing, it looked like you were making my translator uncomfortable. The air in the room seemed to freeze. Mark sputtered, trying to backpedal, but Christina cut him off with a raised hand. Mr. Harris, I believe your services are no longer required this evening. Lindsay and I have some urgent matters to discuss. Alone. The dismissal in her tone was unmistakable. Mark hesitated for a moment, then nodded stiffly and left the room, closing the door behind him with more force than necessary. As soon as he was gone, Christina's entire demeanor changed. She rushed to my side, concern etched across her face. Are you all right? Did he hurt you? I shook my head, still processing what had just happened. No, I'm fine. He wouldn't take no for an answer. Christina's eyes flashed with anger. That's unacceptable. I'll speak to the partners about his behavior. No, I said quickly, fear gripping me. Please, I don't want to cause trouble. It's fine, really. She looked at me for a long moment, then sighed. Lindsay, this isn't fine. You shouldn't have to deal with this kind of harassment. The genuine concern in her voice made my heart ache. Without thinking, I reached out and touched her arm. Thank you for stepping in. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't shown up. Our eyes met, and suddenly the air between us was charged with a different kind of tension. Christina's gaze dropped to my lips, and I felt myself leaning in, drawn to her like a magnet. But just as our lips were about to meet, a loud knock on the door made us jump apart. It was the night security guard doing his rounds. We both laughed nervously the moment broken. Christina ran a hand through her hair, looking flustered in a way I'd never seen before. I should go, she said softly. But Lindsay, promise me you'll be careful, and if Mark or anyone else gives you trouble again, please tell me. I nodded, unable to form words around the lump in my throat. As she turned to leave, I called out, Christina? She paused at the door, looking back at me. Thank you, I said simply. She gave me a soft smile that made my heart flutter. Any time. As I watched her walk away, I felt a confusing mix of emotions swirling inside me. Gratitude for her protection, frustration at another interrupted moment, and an overwhelming desire that I could no longer deny. I sank back into my chair, my head spinning. How had my life become so complicated? I was attracted to a woman, my client no less, and now I had to worry about fending off unwanted advances from a colleague. As I gathered my things to leave, I couldn't shake the memory of Christina's fierce protectiveness, the way her eyes had blazed with anger on my behalf. It made me feel safe, cared for, and more conflicted than ever. I knew one thing for certain: whatever was happening between Christina and me, it was far from over. And despite all the complications, a part of me couldn't wait to see where it would lead. The days following Christina's intervention with Mark were a blur of confusion and longing. I couldn't stop thinking about the way she'd rushed to my defense, the fire in her eyes when she confronted Mark. It stirred something deep within me, a feeling I couldn't quite name but knew I wanted to explore further. One evening, as we were working late in her office, I caught Christina staring at me with an intensity that made my breath catch. When our eyes met, she didn't look away. Instead, she set down her pen and leaned back in her chair, studying me. Lindsay, she said softly, I think we need to talk. My heart began to race. About what? She stood up and moved around her desk, perching on the edge of it just inches from where I sat. About this tension between us. I can't be the only one feeling it. I swallowed hard, my mouth suddenly dry. You're not, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. Christina's eyes softened. I've never felt this way about a woman before, she confessed. It's confusing, exhilarating, terrifying. Her words mirrored my own thoughts so perfectly that I couldn't help but laugh softly. I know exactly what you mean. She reached out, her fingers brushing against mine. This time neither of us pulled away. Tell me about your past relationships, she said. Have you ever? I shook my head. Never with a woman. You. Christina's lips curved into a small smile. Once, in college. It was brief, experimental. Nothing like this. The revelation sent a thrill through me. Knowing that Christina had some experience with women, even if it was limited, somehow made this feel more real, more possible. What happened? I asked, genuinely curious. She shrugged. We were young, scared of what it meant. It ended before it really began. Her eyes locked onto mine. But I've always wondered what it would be like, to truly be with a woman. The air between us was electric. I felt myself leaning in, drawn by an irresistible force. Christina's hand came up to cup my cheek, her touch sending shivers down my spine. "Lindsay," she breathed, her lips just inches from mine. "I want to kiss you, may I?" Instead of answering, I closed the distance between us, pressing my lips to hers. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, but quickly deepened as years of repressed desire came rushing to the surface. Christina's lips were impossibly soft, tasting faintly of mint and something uniquely her. I felt her fingers tangle in my hair, pulling me closer as she parted her lips, inviting me to deepen the kiss. When we finally broke apart, both breathless, I felt as though my world had shifted on its axis. Everything I thought I knew about myself, about desire, had been turned upside down by this one perfect kiss. Christina rested her forehead against mine, her eyes closed. "Wow," she whispered. I couldn't help but laugh softly. "Yeah, wow." We stayed like that for a moment, savoring the closeness, but as the reality of what we'd just done began to sink in, I felt a flicker of panic. "Christina," I said, pulling back slightly, "what does this mean? For us, for the project?" She opened her eyes, and I saw my own mix of excitement and fear reflected in them. "I don't know," she admitted, "but I know I want to find out. If you do?" I nodded, unable to form words around the lump in my throat. Christina smiled, a brilliant, radiant smile that made my heart skip a beat. "Then we'll figure it out together," she said, leaning in to kiss me again. As we lost ourselves in each other, all my doubts and fears melted away. It didn't matter that we were both women, that she was my client, that this could complicate everything. In that moment, all that mattered was the feeling of Christina's lips on mine, her hands exploring my body with a tenderness that brought tears to my eyes. When we finally parted, flushed and disheveled, Christina laughed softly. "I think we might need to reschedule our meeting for tomorrow," she said, her eyes twinkling with mischief. I grinned, feeling lighter than I had in years. "I think that's a good idea. We have a lot to discuss." As I gathered my things to leave, Christina caught my hand, pulling me in for one last, lingering kiss. "Good night, Lindsay," she murmured against my lips. "Good night, Christina," I replied, my voice husky with emotion. I left her office in a daze, my lips still tingling from her kisses. As I drove home, my mind raced with possibilities. I knew we had a long way to go, many obstacles to overcome. But for the first time in my life, I felt truly alive, truly myself. Whatever challenges lay ahead, I knew one thing for certain: my life would never be the same after tonight. And I couldn't wait to see where this new path would lead. The weeks following our first kiss were a whirlwind of stolen moments and hidden glances. Christina and I tried to maintain a professional facade during business hours, but the tension between us was palpable. Every accidental touch sent sparks through my body, and I found myself constantly seeking reasons to be near her. It was during a business trip to San Francisco that everything changed. We were there to meet with some international clients, and the close quarters of the hotel room only intensified our growing desire for each other. On the second night of our trip, after a long day of meetings, we found ourselves alone in Christina's hotel room, ostensibly to review some documents. But as soon as the door closed behind us, the pretense fell away. Christina looked at me, her green eyes dark with desire. "Lindsay," she said softly, "I don't think I can pretend anymore." I stepped closer to her, my heart pounding. "Then don't," I whispered. She pulled me into her arms, her lips crashing against mine with a passion that took my breath away. I melted into her embrace, all my doubts and fears vanishing in the heat of her kiss. We made love for hours, exploring each other's bodies with a mix of curiosity and passion. By the time we finally fell asleep, tangled in each other's arms, the sun was beginning to peek through the curtains. The next morning, I woke to find Christina watching me, a soft smile on her face. "Good morning," she murmured, leaning in to kiss me softly. As I returned her kiss, I felt a mix of emotions wash over me. Joy at the incredible night we had shared, but also a twinge of guilt. What did this mean for our professional relationship? How would we navigate this new territory? Christina seemed to sense my inner turmoil. She pulled back slightly, her eyes searching mine. "Are you okay?" she asked gently. I nodded, trying to find the right words. "Last night was amazing," I said, "but I can't help but worry about what happens next." Christina's hand came up to cup my cheek. "We'll figure it out together," she said softly. "I know it won't be easy, but I want to try. If you do?" Looking into her eyes, seeing the sincerity and affection there, I felt my fears begin to subside. Whatever challenges lay ahead, I knew I wanted to face them with Christina by my side. I do, I whispered, pulling her in for another kiss. As we lost ourselves in each other once again, I knew that our lives had irrevocably changed. The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in my life I was excited to see where it would lead. Returning to Anaheim after our passionate encounter in San Francisco felt like stepping into a different world. Christina and I tried to maintain our professional facade, but stolen glances and lingering touches became our new language. The air crackled with unspoken desire whenever we were in the same room. However, our budding relationship didn't go unnoticed. Whispers and curious looks followed us through the office. I caught Mark glaring at us more than once, his face twisted with a mix of suspicion and disgust. One afternoon, as I was heading to the break room, I overheard two colleagues gossiping. "Did you see the way Miss Valdez looks at Lindsay? It's not natural," one of them said, her voice dripping with disdain. "I heard they shared a room during the San Francisco trip," the other replied. "God knows what they got up to." I froze, my heart pounding. Was this how it was going to be? Judgment and speculation at every turn? Before I could confront them, I felt a gentle hand on my arm. It was Christina, her eyes filled with concern and understanding. "Let's go to my office," she said softly, guiding me away from the break room. Once inside, she closed the door and pulled me into her arms. I melted into her embrace, the tension leaving my body as she held me. "I'm so sorry," Christina murmured, stroking my hair. "I never wanted to make things difficult for you here." I pulled back slightly, looking into her eyes. "It's not your fault. I didn't expect it to be this hard." Christina's hand came up to cup my cheek. "We knew it wouldn't be easy, but Lindsay, you're worth it." "We're worth it." Her words filled me with warmth, and I leaned in to kiss her softly. As our lips met, I felt the world around us fade away. Nothing else mattered but this moment, this connection. When we parted, Christina's eyes were shining with emotion. "I have an idea," she said. "Why don't we have dinner at my place tonight, away from prying eyes and wagging tongues?" I nodded, a smile spreading across my face. "I'd love that." That evening, as I stood outside Christina's elegant townhouse, I felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. This was different from our stolen moments in hotel rooms or hidden corners of the office. This felt real. Christina opened the door, looking breathtaking in a simple black dress. Her smile lit up her entire face as she pulled me inside. "Welcome," she said softly, leaning in to kiss me. The kiss was tender, unhurried. We had all night, and we both knew it. Christina had prepared a beautiful meal, complete with candles and soft music. As we ate and talked, I felt myself relaxing, truly being myself with her for the first time. After dinner, we moved to the couch, wine glasses in hand. Christina's fingers intertwined with mine, her thumb tracing small circles on my skin. "Lindsay," she said, her voice soft but serious. "I want you to know that this, it's not just a fling for me. I'm all in." My heart swelled at her words. "I'm all in too," I replied, setting down my wine glass to cup her face in my hands. "You've awakened something in me, Christina, something I didn't even know was there." Our lips met in a passionate kiss, months of pent-up desire pouring out, before capturing my lips in a tender kiss. As we drifted off to sleep in each other's arms, I felt a sense of peace I'd never known before. Whatever challenges we faced, whatever obstacles lay ahead, I knew we'd face them together. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of what the future might hold. The weeks following our night at Christina's were a blissful haze. We stole moments whenever we could, sharing secret smiles across conference rooms and stolen kisses in empty corridors. But as our relationship deepened, so did the whispers and sidelong glances from our colleagues. One afternoon, I was working late in my office when Mark barged in without knocking. His face was flushed, eyes wild with anger. "I hope you're happy," he spat. "Your little affair with M&M's Valdez is becoming quite the topic of conversation." I felt my stomach drop, but I forced myself to meet his gaze steadily. "My personal life is none of your business, Mark." He laughed bitterly. "It becomes my business when it affects the company. Do you have any idea how unprofessional this looks?" Before I could respond, Christina appeared in the doorway, her expression thunderous. "Is there a problem here, Mr. Harris?" Mark's demeanor changed instantly, a forced smile replacing his scowl. Not at all, Ms. Valdez. Just discussing some office matters with Lindsay. Christina's eyes narrowed. I see. Well, I need to speak with Lindsay privately, if you'll excuse us. Mark hesitated for a moment before nodding stiffly and leaving the room. As soon as the door closed behind him, Christina was at my side, her hand on my arm. Are you all right? She asked softly. What did he say to you? I shook my head, fighting back tears. It's nothing. Just office gossip. Christina's expression softened. Lindsay, look at me. We knew this wouldn't be easy, but we can handle it together, remember? I nodded, drawing strength from her words. But as the days passed, the tension in the office grew. I could feel eyes on me wherever I went, hear the whispers that fell silent as soon as I entered a room. It was wearing me down, making me question everything. One evening, as Christina and I were leaving work together, we ran into a group of colleagues in the parking lot. Their conversation stopped abruptly as we approached, and I felt Christina stiffen beside me. Evening, ladies, one of them said, his tone dripping with innuendo. Heading home together? I felt my face flush with anger and embarrassment. Christina, however, remained calm. As a matter of fact, we are, she said coolly. Is there a problem with that? The man's smirk faltered under Christina's steely gaze. No problem at all, he muttered, before hurrying away with his friends. As we got into Christina's car, I felt the weight of the past few weeks crashing down on me. I can't do this anymore, I whispered, my voice breaking. Christina turned to me, alarm clear in her eyes. What do you mean? This. Us, I said, gesturing between us. It's too hard. The gossip, the judgment. I feel like I'm losing myself. Christina's face fell, hurt and confusion warring in her expression. Lindsay, please, we can figure this out. I love you. The words, which had once filled me with joy, now felt like a knife twisting in my chest. I love you too, I said softly. But maybe that's not enough. We sat in silence for a long moment, the weight of my words hanging heavy between us. Finally, Christina spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. Is this really what you want? I closed my eyes, fighting back tears. I don't know what I want anymore. The drive to my apartment was tense and silent. When we arrived, Christina turned to me, her eyes shining with unshed tears. Lindsay, please, don't let them win. What we have is real, it's beautiful. We can't let their narrow-mindedness destroy it. I wanted so badly to believe her, to fall into her arms and forget about everything else. But the doubt had taken root and I couldn't shake it. I need some time, I said finally, to think, to figure things out. Christina nodded, her expression a mixture of hurt and resignation. I understand, but Lindsay, please remember. I'm here, whenever you're ready. As I watched her drive away, I felt as though a piece of my heart was leaving with her. I trudged up to my apartment, feeling more alone than I ever had before. The next few days were a blur of confusion and heartache. I threw myself into work, avoiding Christina as much as possible. But every time I caught a glimpse of her, looking as lost and hurt as I felt, it took all my willpower not to run to her. One afternoon, as I was leaving a meeting, I overheard Mark talking to some colleagues. I always knew that Valdez woman was trouble, he was saying. Using her position to seduce employees. It's disgraceful. Something inside me snapped. All the fear, all the doubt, all the self-loathing I'd been feeling suddenly crystallized into a burning anger. Without thinking, I stormed over to their group. How dare you? I hissed, my voice shaking with rage. You know nothing about Christina, or about us. Your small-minded bigotry is what's truly disgraceful. Mark's face reddened with anger, but before he could respond, I felt a hand on my arm. It was Christina, her eyes wide with concern, and... was that pride? Lindsay, she said softly, let's go. As she led me away, I felt a weight lifting from my shoulders. In that moment, facing down Mark and his cronies, I'd finally found my voice. And with it came the realization that I'd been a fool to let their prejudice come between Christina and me. We ended up in Christina's office, the door safely closed behind us. For a long moment we just looked at each other, the air thick with unspoken words. Finally, I broke the silence. I'm sorry, I whispered. I was scared and I let it cloud my judgment. But I love you, Christina. And I want to be with you, no matter what anyone else thinks. Christina's face softened, a smile breaking through her worried expression. "Oh, Lindsay," she breathed, pulling me into her arms. "I love you too, so much." As we held each other, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we'd face them together. The road wouldn't be easy, but with Christina by my side, I was ready for anything. The days following my confrontation with Mark were a whirlwind of emotions and changes. Christina and I had emerged stronger, our love reaffirmed in the face of adversity, but we knew we couldn't go back to the way things were before. With Christina's support, I decided to file a formal complaint against Mark for harassment and creating a hostile work environment. It wasn't an easy decision, but I knew it was necessary, not just for me, but for anyone else who might face similar treatment in the future. The day I submitted the complaint, Christina held my hand under the table as we sat in HR. Her presence gave me strength, and I found my voice steady as I recounted Mark's behavior. To my surprise and relief, the company took my complaints seriously. An investigation was launched, and within weeks, Mark was asked to leave the firm. It felt like a weight had been lifted from my shoulders, knowing I wouldn't have to face his snide remarks and leering glances anymore. But the real change came in the office culture. Christina used her influence to implement new diversity and inclusion policies, making it clear that discrimination of any kind wouldn't be tolerated. Slowly but surely, the whispers and judgmental looks began to fade. One evening, as we were leaving work hand in hand, Christina turned to me with a mischievous glint in her eye. "How about we take a little trip this weekend?" she suggested. "I think we've earned a break." I grinned, feeling a flutter of excitement in my stomach. "Where did you have in mind?" "It's a surprise," she said, pressing a soft kiss to my lips. "Just pack for warm weather." That Friday, we boarded a plane to Hawaii. As we stepped off the plane in Maui, the warm, fragrant air enveloped us like an embrace. Christina led me to a waiting car, and soon we were winding our way along the coast to a secluded beach house. The house was stunning, all glass and sleek lines, with a breathtaking view of the ocean. But what took my breath away was the sight of Christina, silhouetted against the setting sun on the balcony. She turned to me, her eyes soft with love. "Come here," she said, holding out her hand. As I joined her, she pulled me close, her arms wrapping around my waist. "Lindsay," she said softly, "these past few months have been the most challenging and the most rewarding of my life. You've shown me what true love is, the kind that stands strong in the face of adversity." I felt tears welling up in my eyes as she continued. "I never want to be without you. So," she dropped to one knee, pulling a small box from her pocket. "Lindsay Porter, will you marry me?" For a moment I couldn't speak, overwhelmed by emotion. Then, through my tears, I managed to choke out, "Yes, of course, yes." Christina slipped the ring onto my finger, a beautiful sapphire surrounded by diamonds, before standing and pulling me into a passionate kiss. As we broke apart, both laughing and crying, I felt as though my heart might burst with happiness. We spent the next week in a blissful bubble, exploring the island and each other. Away from the pressures of work and society's judgments, we were free to simply be ourselves, two women deeply in love. When we returned to Anaheim, we were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. To our surprise and delight, our engagement was met with genuine congratulations from most of our colleagues. Those who still harbored prejudices kept their opinions to themselves, perhaps finally realizing that our love was no different from any other. Over the next year, we planned our wedding, a small, intimate ceremony on the beach in Hawaii where Christina had proposed. As I stood across from her, reciting our vows with the sound of the waves in the background, I marveled at how far we'd come. "I promise to love you fiercely and without reservation," Christina said, her voice thick with emotion. "To stand by your side through whatever life throws our way, and to never take for granted the beautiful love we share." As we sealed our vows with a kiss, cheers erupting from our gathered friends and family, I felt a sense of peace and rightness that I'd never experienced before. This was where I belonged, with Christina, facing the world together. In the years that followed, we faced our share of challenges. There were still those who didn't understand or accept our love. But we faced each obstacle hand in hand, our bond only growing stronger with each test. Christina's company continued to thrive under her leadership, becoming known not just for its business success, but for its progressive policies and inclusive culture. I found my own career flourishing, no longer held back by fear or self-doubt. As I sit here now, watching the sunset from our beachfront home, Christina's hand warm in mine, I can't help but marvel at the journey that brought us here. From that first tentative kiss in her office to the life we've built together, It's been a road filled with both struggles and joy. But looking into Christina's eyes, seeing the love and devotion that still burns as brightly as it did that first day, I know that every challenge was worth it. Our love story may not have been conventional, may not have been easy, but it was ours, and I wouldn't change a single moment of it. As Christina leans in to kiss me, the last rays of the sun painting her face in golden light, I silently thank whatever twist of fate brought her into my life. In her arms I found not just love, but the courage to be truly unashamedly myself. And in the end, isn't that what a great love story is all about?